please stand for prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. Our Father, who art in heaven, as a body we congregate in this council chambers for the betterment of our fellow citizens, lead us that we may do all things well. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. DeBerke?
Present.
Mr. Ray Culberson?
Here.
Mr. Schuldmeyer?
Present.
Mr. Bob Culberson?
Here.
Mrs. Beddinghouse?
Here.
Ms. Miller?
Here.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Here.
Let the record show that all 7 members are present. Members of council, what is your pleasure of the reading of the minutes of the last meeting?
Mr. President,
Ms. Beddinghouse.
make a motion to dispense with the reading of the last minutes.
A motion by Ms. Beddinghouse, second by Mr. Ray Culberson to dispense with the reading of the last minutes. Are there any remarks? If there are no remarks, all those in favor of suspension, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Members of council, are there any errors or corrections to the minutes as submitted? Not, the minutes will stand as submitted. Move to reports of city officials. Mayor, Mr. Stuchel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening. First off, I'd like to apologize for the incomplete call command over the weekend, as I did not know that you could actually time out. We had quite a lot of information regarding our recreation programs in the aquatic center. So if you missed any of that, you can view it on the village website. I have to thank all of the great people who have been involved in making sure that we are able to have the summer and fall sports programs with the modifications due to COVID-19. We are still not accepting hall or shelter rentals, and I do not have a projected date as to when we will be able to start doing that, as mass gatherings are still not allowed. Once we feel that our facilities can be safely rented and maintained, we will make them available. I appreciate everyone's understanding that this is not an option for us right now. There's not been a decision as to whether or not we're able to have the German luau. The committee is still continuing as though the event will be able to be held, and we will update you as soon as we have a determination is made. The St. Clement Festival is also in a holding pattern at this time, and a decision is not made for that event as well. We have been working on the summer budget for Hamilton County, and I will have it to you all early next week. Peggy will be making a request for the public hearing. I really appreciate how everyone has been so cooperative, and I truly appreciate the efforts of all the department heads. I would like to congratulate our 4 new members of the St. Bernard Fire Department. On Wednesday, May 20th, I had the pleasure of swearing in firefighter-paramedic Casey Ballman, firefighter-paramedic Charles Weghorn, firefighter-paramedic Ben Stopel, and firefighter-paramedic Jeffrey Martini Jr. We could not be more fortunate to have a group of highly qualified firefighter-paramedics serving our community. A formal swearing-in will be performed at a future council meeting once we can properly host it for their families. Also, I have made 2 conditional offers to fill the position of patrol officer in the St. Bernard Police Department. As these candidates complete the final stages of their pre-employment requirements, I will announce their names. I am truly excited about how both processes have gone, and I am very grateful to the leadership that we have in both the fire and police departments. Also, as a reminder, the annual St. Clement spring delivery of surplus household items to help Good Shepherd Church in Camden, Kentucky will be taking place Friday, May 29th from 9 to 11 and 11 to 2, Saturday, May 29th from 3:30 to 5:30, and Sunday, May 30th from 9 to 11 and 12 to 2. That will be held in the municipal parking lot behind La Rosa's. Items such as food, like cereal, canned goods, non-perishable items, clean toys, clothes, kitchen utensils, and any other donations would be appreciated. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Auditor, Ms. Brickwig.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Auditor's Office prepared Ordinance 9 and Resolution 4, 2020 for tonight's meeting. The ordinance provides a transfer of $500,000 into the general bond retirement cash account and $500,000 into the employee health plan cash account. It also establishes a new line item for alarm monitoring. This line item will be used to pay the company monitoring the security systems that the police department previously did. An established revenue line item will be used for the money received from the monitoring. The additional appropriation of $4,000 should get us through the end of 2020. This should make us break even. Ordinance 9 also includes additional appropriations to two I-9 professional services for $12,000. This is the additional legal fees needed for West Ross Avenue billboard suit. 2K2 miscellaneous, $10,000. This line item has a balance of $10,764.91 as of the end of today. We are using this line item to refund the full hall rentals and sports fees. It is also being used for some COVID-19 expenses that we will be applying for reimbursement. 2018, landfill and composting, $50,000. This line item has been used a lot in the last few months due to residents staying at home and cleaning out their homes and yards. The landfill tonnage has increased a lot. This is an estimated on the high side. We will review this line item in the fall and see if we can decrease the appropriation if possible. 5A6, hall rental refund for $5,000. This is for the rest of 2020 hall rental deposits. The reasons we need additional appropriations in this line is because many people put the deposits down with a credit card and then we refund their deposits with checks. Resolution 4, 2020 is the first step in the levy renewal process in case the levy does not pass in August. The Hamilton County Auditor and Board of Elections requires the entire process be completed before we vote in August. There will be a public hearing on June 11th, 2020, starting at 7 p.m. before the Committee of the Whole meeting for the projected 2021 budget that will be sent to the county. Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Director of Law, Ms. Van Valkenburg-Walden.
Good evening. At my direction, Heidi Culbertson forwarded a draft anti-discrimination ordinance to the mayor and Ms. Bettinghouse for review by the Laws, Contracts, and Claims Committee. My apologies to the other two committee members. I will get that sent out to you this evening. I've been tied up with unexpected personal matters which required my immediate attention the past 2 days. As I've discussed with Ms. Bettinghouse, I'm available to meet and discuss with you, and I believe she's scheduling a date for that so that we can discuss the ordinance in general, the aims, and answer any questions you have. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Treasurer, Mr. Ungrove.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening I have the Star Ohio bank statement for our holdings that we have up there with the state of Ohio. At the end of April 30th, 2020, our total there amounted to $3,809,050.12. And I have copies for everyone who wants one. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a report? Yes, we have a report for the Safety and Service Director.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Paul here has, of course, the Mcclelland Avenue project will start in a week or two. Our team is meeting Tuesday for the final approach. This project will not take long, and it should be finished by their deadline of July 17th. Also, 133 linear feet of curbs will be poured on Vine Street that will be replaced, and also on the north side of Washington in front of City Hall. He's also stated that he thought he would have invoices for open container garbage by today, but that it did not arrive. He will make sure that these will be out soon so that everyone will be informed and have a better idea of what we will need monetarily. At the very least, we should have a tidy village. And this evening, he did leave out the portion of To My Community. So, thank you. That concludes his report.
I'm sure he will make up for it. Is there a report from the Tax Commissioner / Administrator? I do remember talking to Mr. Paul today, and I know she wants to remind everybody that taxes are due on July 15th. Do not forget. Thank you. We'll move to reports of standing committees. Finance, Mr. Taberky.
Thank you, Mr. President. The village received $25,591.10 for garbage fee program in March. This brings the total for the first 3 months of the year to $73,806.20. Block watch meetings are canceled until further notice. I did speak to Chief Simos by replacing Officer Setters as the police representative to Block Watch. In the future, I'm planning on hosting 2 Meet the Canaan nights before the November election, if we're able to do it in accordance with the Department of Health directives. Concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Safety, Mr. Ray Culbertson.
Thanks, Mr. President. I have the April Fire Department report. There was a total of 40 fire incidents, which included 5 structural fires, 2 auto accidents, 5 hazmat incidents, 6 service calls, 5 fire alarms, and 13 EMS assists. Mutual aid was given to Norwood once, Springfield Township twice, Elmwood Place 4 times, Marymount twice, Wyoming once. Mutual aid was received from Elmwood Place once. There was a total of 97 EMS incidents with 39 transports and 58 non-transports. Mutual aid was given to Elmwood Place 17 times and Marymount once. I truly would like to welcome the 4 new firefighters to the village and wish them well. And I would also like to thank Wilma Jennings, who stepped down after 38 years of owning the Cutter's Edge Salon. And I would also like to welcome Chelsea Corolla, who now takes over. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Service, Mr. Schultmeyer.
Mr. President, the report for April for the Service Department has 39 trucks placed at residences, 40 dumpsters placed at residences, 373 special pickups at residences, 207 tons of garbage taken to the landfill, 36 tons of recycling material, 300 pounds of scrap aluminum, and 10,450 pounds of scrap metal, and a total of 304 tires. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Public Improvements, Mr. Bob Culbertson.
Thank you, Mr. President. The CIC met last week to discuss entering into an agreement for the 4509 Vine Street property. After that meeting, it was decided to accept one of the proposals that was submitted, so look for improvements and enhancements on that building. And it was also decided at that same CIC meeting to accept a bid on the Park Place properties. So look for construction hopefully to begin there soon. The next CIC meeting is June 16th at 6 p.m. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Laws, Contracts, and Claims, Ms. Bettinghouse.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the Law Director Valerie indicated, her and I did meet last week, and we went over, she had a draft that was drawn up for the anti-discrimination ordinance, and I want to thank her because she went through quite a few villages and cities' anti-discrimination ordinance and put together what she thought best fit our village. It is rather long and lengthy, so I am going to request that we have a meeting on a different day than our committee of whole or council so that we can really walk and talk through this and then just get this done. So we will be meeting Wednesday, June 3rd at 6 p.m. here in council chambers. Thank you, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Marketing, Ms. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President. The village newsletter will go out Thursday, June 4th, and we will have all meetings and events updated accordingly. The Women's Club would like to announce their St. Bernard Women's Club annual scholarship winners. Hannah Hackney will attend UC Blue Ash for Applied Graphic Communication, and Kristen Kane will attend Ohio State University to study finance. Congrats, ladies. On that note, the village would also like to congratulate all seniors in our community and wish them all continued success in their future endeavors. In my business updates, I also would like to welcome the new owner of Cutter's Edge, Miss Chelsea Corolla. Welcome to our community. I would also like to remind residents that dine-in is available now with some limitations as set by the CDC. Please continue to support our local businesses. The Village Recreation Department would like to thank the citizens for their patience regarding the reopening of many of our village recreation activities. There will be another sports sign-up this Saturday, May 30th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. I'm going to give a high level of what will be reopening soon. The St. Bernard Aquatic Center will open for the season on Friday, June 5th. The hours for the season will be weekdays, noon to 8, and weekends and holidays, 11 to 6. The gym and the weight room, due to recent flooding issues, will remain closed until further notice. We will provide more information on this in the coming week. The fitness studio. All adult fitness programs in the fitness studio will resume on Monday, June 1st. Adult League Softball. Adult leagues will start the week of June 1st. Summer swim lessons. Swim lessons will take place the weeks of July 6th, 13th, and 20th at the St. Bernard High School indoor pool. Arts and crafts will be offered again this year beginning Monday, June 8th at Vine Street Park and running every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. through July. T-ball will start this season Monday and Thursday evenings at Lower Ross from July 6th through July 30th. And again, as a reminder, all of these guidelines are up for review and revisions at any time per CDC and Hamilton County Health Department requirements. And that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you. Business and Industry, Ms. Household.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too have a little bit report. After a successful 38 years, Wilma Jennings has stepped down from being the owner of Cutter's Edge Salon. She will remain a hairstylist and mentor at the salon to the new owner, Chelsea Cocola. Chelsea is so excited to be a part of this St. Bernard community. She has been a hairstylist for 9 years, and under this new management, she has already done a full remodel. She asked for me to let you guys know to feel free to stop by to see the new Cutter's Edge and also to wish Wilma and Chelsea a very happy and bright future. I also have the Village of St. Bernard Building and Zoning Department 2020 April activities report. Building activities was 8 residential permits, 3 commercial permits. Total fees for residential permits was $750. Total fees for commercial permits was $630. Amount paid back to the treasurer, State of Ohio, residential was $750, and the amount paid back to the treasurer, State of Ohio, commercial was $18.90. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Committee of the Whole, Ms. Catherine.
The committee of the whole has been emailed to the administration and members of council.
Thank you. Clerk, are there any communications this evening?
No, Mr. President.
Thank you. This time we will move to resolutions and ordinances. Clerk, would you please give the first reading of resolution number 4, 2020? Oh, yeah. And we don't have to. It's part of the council rules that everything's read by title only unless so we can just, yep.
I already got it typed. Resolution number 4, 2020. Resolution authorizing a renewal 7 mil tax levy on the current real property tax rate for real property located within the Village of St. Bernard, certifying said resolution to the Hamilton County Auditor and declaring an emergency.
Members of council, you've heard the first reading of resolution number 4, 2020. What is your pleasure?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse.
make a motion to suspend with the second and third reading of resolution number 4, 2020.
I'll second that, Mr. President.
A motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Ms. Housefeld to suspend with the second and third reading of resolution number 4, 2020. Are there any remarks? If not, clerk, will you please call the roll on suspension?
Mr. DeBerke?
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culberson?
Aye.
Mr. Schuldmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Bob Culberson?
Aye.
Mrs. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Ms. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Housefeld?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Members of council, what is your pleasure on adoption?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse.
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 4, 2020.
I'll second that.
A motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Mr. Ray Culberson to adopt resolution number 4, 2020. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. DeBerke?
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culberson?
Aye.
Mr. Schuldmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Bob Culberson?
Aye.
Mrs. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Ms. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Housefeld?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays. Resolution number 4, 2020 is adopted as read. Clerk, will you please give the first reading of ordinance number 6, 2020?
Ordinance number 6, 2020, amending certain sections in Chapter 121 of St. Bernard's Codified Ordinances and declaring an emergency.
Members of council, you've heard the first reading of ordinance number 6, 2020. What is your pleasure?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse.
make a motion to suspend with the second and third reading of ordinance number 6, 2020.
Second that.
A motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Mr. Ray Culberson to suspend with the second and third reading of ordinance number 6, 2020. Are there any remarks? If not, clerk, will you please call the roll on suspension?
Mr. DeBerke?
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culberson?
Aye.
Mr. Schuldmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Bob Culberson?
Aye.
Mrs. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Ms. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Housefeld?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Clerk, will you, or do I have a motion? Council, what is your motion or pleasure on adoption? Excuse me.
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse.
make a motion to adopt ordinance number 6, 2020.
I'll second that, Mr. President.
Motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Ms. Housefeld to adopt ordinance number 6, 2020. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. DeBerke?
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culberson?
Aye.
Mr. Schultmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Bob Culberson?
Aye.
Mrs. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Ms. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Ordinance number 6, 2020 is adopted as read. Clerk, will you please give the first reading of ordinance number 7, 2020?
Ordinance number 7, 2020, authorizing the solid waste collection fee for residential accounts for the year of 2020.
Members of council, you've heard the first reading of ordinance number 7, 2020. What is your pleasure?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse?
make a motion to suspend with the second and third reading of ordinance number 7, 2020.
I'll second that.
A motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Mr. Ray Culbertson to suspend with the second and third reading of ordinance number 7, 2020. Are there any remarks? Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address on ordinance 7? Either one of you. If not, clerk, will you please call the roll on suspension?
Mr. DeBerke?
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culberson?
Aye.
Mr. Schultmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Bob Culberson?
Aye.
Mrs. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Ms. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Council, what is your pleasure on adoption?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse?
make a motion to adopt ordinance number 7, 2020.
I'll second that.
Motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Mr. Ray Culbertson to adopt ordinance number 7, 2020. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. DeBerke?
No.
Mr. Ray Culberson?
Aye.
Mr. Schultmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Bob Culberson?
No.
Mrs. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Ms. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
5 ayes, 2 nays, motion passes. Ordinance number 7, 2020 is adopted as read. Clerk? Yes. Can you please give the first reading of ordinance number 9, 2020?
Ordinance number 9, 2020, authorizing and directing the auditor to establish a new line item, provide additional appropriations and transfer funds, and declaring an emergency.
Members of council, you've heard the first reading of ordinance number 9, 2020. What is your pleasure?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse?
I make a motion to suspend with the second and third reading of ordinance number 9, 2020.
I'll second that, Mr. President.
A motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Ms. Hausfeld to suspend with the second and third reading of ordinance number 9, 2020. Are there any remarks? Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address council on ordinance 9? If not, clerk, will you please call the roll on suspension?
Mr. DeBerke?
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culberson?
Aye.
Mr. Schultmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Bob Culberson?
Aye.
Mrs. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Ms. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Council, what is your pleasure on adoption?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse?
I make a motion to adopt ordinance number 9, 2020.
I'll second that.
A motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, seconded by Mr. Ray Culbertson to adopt ordinance number 9, 2020. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. DeBerke?
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culberson?
Aye.
Mr. Schultmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Bob Culberson?
Aye.
Mrs. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Ms. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays. Ordinance number 9, 2020 is adopted as read. All right. This time, does anyone on council have anything under old business? Does anyone on council have anything under new business?
Mr. President?
Mr. Taberky?
Jonathan, the message about the pool was a little confusing. They're saying each day, each manager will determine the number of people at the pool. Is there shouldn't there be a certain set number of people allowed at the pool at a time, not up to each manager?
So as far as the manager's responsibility in being able to make that determination is going to partially be affected by the type of attendees that we would have. So if you have one of our larger families that comes in as a group, that they can sit together. So the issue is going to be is that we are going to make sure that the spacing on the pool deck, so families can spread out, is going to actually carry over into the pavilion as well, so they can set up their base camp and be there as well. So it's trying to determine the maximum occupancy is going to be based upon how we can most appropriately space the families out. The number has not 100% been determined. I know you're not liking my answer based on the way you're, because we cannot sit there and say, right now you can have 35 people. Because if a group of related people come in together, that can increase the number of people that can be spaced on the pool deck. Same thing in the water. As far as the number of people that can be in the water, yes, everyone non-related being 6 feet apart, social distancing, but related families to a certain degree can still be together. it's all going to be clearly marked on the pool deck as far as spacing and the amount of people that can be in the pool. But we're not going to do reservations like some other communities are doing. So basically what we may do is have to allow people to get in the water basically in shifts. But it's going to be kind of a learned process to begin with. I mean, I'm not going to give you a number. I know that's what you want right now, but that is yet to be determined, and they're trying to work that all out. It's going to be a learning process, but we will still be in compliance. And once we have that magic number, as they experience it, as they space everyone out, that'll be announced. But the one thing that gives us additional space as well for right now, and some of this has to be tested because we have not brought in a bunch of portable lawn chairs yet. I mean, that's why we've eliminated the use of our lounge chairs for right now, because it takes up a lot of space, and by the fact that the continual disinfection after each use. So we're basically making all attendees bring your own chair, so that should increase some capacity with the spacing requirements. So as soon as we have that number, I will let you know. But again, when we try to do the math based on the square footage of the pool deck, and depending on the mix and how the people come, it will change day to day. But we are not doing, at the same time, we're not doing passes for anyone outside of St. Bernard. We are allowing for non-residents to come, but it's on a daily payment requirement. So depending on the number of people that are in the pool, we're not wanting to turn away residents either.
Mr. President. Also, I know Paul's got a baseball tournament on Ross Park this weekend. I've talked to him, and he said that no resident can be charged to get into watch the tournament. But who's responsible for wiping down everything every 2 hours? Is it the tournament, is there a service department moving out and doing that, or what?
The recreation department does have someone that they have, a younger person that's going to be doing that. There's an interim period of time potentially where there may not be coverage that they would have to pay for someone else to be there. But as of right now, it's not, from what I'm told, going to be the service department. If it is, that it will be reimbursed. But the recreation department is going to have someone that is actually going to be trained and employed to perform that task as well. So that will be covered.
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse.
I just have one more question for Jonathan about the pool then. So no sponsor passes, that type thing. What about grandparents' passes?
As of right now, the grandparent pass, I believe, will be allowed. I have to double check with Paul on that, but I believe that was the one exception for this year. But as far as otherwise, the non-resident passes would not be allowed.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else under new business?
Mr. President, I just wanted to make sure that you all knew that the NSSL has canceled the Stingray swim team season for this summer. I don't know if that went out as kind of generally or just to the swim team, Stingray's family, but because social distancing would be impossible under swim meets, they have canceled the season.
Thank you. Anyone else under new business? Anyone in the audience wish to address council? All right. Then the next committee of the whole will be Thursday, June 11th, which will begin with the public hearing on the, is that on the 2021 budget? At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Ray Culbertson.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
A motion by Mr. Ray Culbertson, seconded by multiple people, that we adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll call it Ms. Housefeld. As we are adjourned.